It was a sunny Wednesday morning at Sunnyside Elementary School. The sun was shining brightly, casting a warm glow over the playground and the school building. The students were arriving, their faces lit up with anticipation for the day ahead. The air was buzzing with excitement. The hallways echoed with the chatter of children, all eagerly discussing what might happen in Mrs. Rivera's science class today. Today was the day for Mrs. Rivera's science experiment. She had been hinting at it all week, and the suspense had built up to a fever pitch. She had promised a surprise. The students had been trying to guess what it could be, but Mrs. Rivera had kept her secret well. All the kids in her class were excited. They loved Mrs. Rivera's science experiments because they were always fun and educational. But nobody was as excited as Ethan. Ethan was a curious and energetic boy who had a passion for science.
"I love science," Ethan would often say, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "I love learning about animals and plants and how they interact with each other in the ecosystem and how things work. Why? Why? Why?" Ethan was always full of questions, eager to understand the world around him.
Ethan couldn't wait to see what Mrs. Rivera had planned. He had been talking about it non-stop since Monday. The bell rang and everyone rushed to their seats. The classroom was filled with a sense of anticipation. Ethan sat in the front row. He wanted to make sure he didn't miss a single moment of the experiment. He bounced in his seat. His excitement was palpable and it was contagious. He couldn't wait any longer. The suspense was almost too much to bear. Finally, Mrs. Rivera walked to the front of the class. The room fell silent as all eyes turned to her. She had a big smile on her face. It was clear that she was just as excited as the students.
"Good morning, class," Mrs. Rivera greeted them warmly. "Today we are going to learn about volcanoes by making one ourselves." The students erupted in cheers, their excitement reaching new heights. "A volcano? A real volcano? I can't believe it! Right here in the classroom? This is amazing! This is going to be the best science lesson ever. I can't wait to see what happens."
Mrs. Rivera pulled a sheet off the table, revealing a collection of intriguing items. Underneath were bottles of strange liquids, each one more mysterious than the last. There was baking soda, vinegar, and red food coloring. Ethan's mind raced with possibilities. Ethan had never seen these things together before. What kind of magic were they about to create? What were they going to do? His curiosity was bubbling over.
What will happen when we mix everything together? Will it explode or just fizzle out? Why do we need food coloring? Is it just to make it look cool or does it have a special purpose? Is it going to be dangerous? What if something goes wrong?
Ethan leaned forward, his eyes wide with curiosity. He was on the edge of his seat. He had so many questions. His mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and ideas. His mind was racing with possibilities. What if they discovered something new today? Ethan raised his hand high in the air, eager to be the first to ask a question. He couldn't wait to ask his questions. His excitement was palpable. Mrs. Rivera always said there were no silly questions in science. She encouraged curiosity and exploration. He was bursting with curiosity. Today was going to be an unforgettable adventure in learning. Mrs. Rivera held up her hand.
"Before we start, we need to remember our safety rules."
She pointed to a colorful poster on the wall. It had pictures of kids wearing goggles and gloves.
"Science can be messy and fun, but we always need to be careful and follow the rules."
Mrs. Rivera gave everyone a pair of safety goggles and a pair of gloves. Ethan put them on carefully. He wanted to be a safe scientist. Mrs. Rivera explained that the experiment wasn't dangerous, but it was important to protect their eyes and hands.
"Now who can tell me what we need to do first?" Me!
Mrs. Rivera smiled and nodded. Ethan was always eager to learn.
"Mrs. Rivera, what happens if we add more vinegar? Will we get a bigger eruption?"
His eyes sparkled with curiosity. The thought of a giant eruption was thrilling.
"That's a great question, Ethan. Scientists always ask what if. That's how we learn. Do you think adding more vinegar will make a difference?"
The classroom buzzed with excitement as everyone started sharing their guesses. Some thought it would make a bigger eruption, others weren't so sure. Ethan listened intently, eager to find out the answer.
Section 5. The volcano awakens. Well, there's only one way to find out. Let's start our experiment. Today we're going to create a mini volcano right here in our kitchen. It's going to be an exciting journey into the world of science. Are you ready? Let's gather all our materials and get started. First, she poured baking soda into the small plastic bottle. Baking soda is a key ingredient in this experiment because it reacts with vinegar to create a fizzy eruption. Make sure to pour enough to cover the bottom of the bottle. Then, she carefully added red food coloring. The red color will make our volcano look more realistic, just like the lava flowing from a real volcano. Be careful not to spill any. It looked like a mini volcano already. The anticipation was building as we prepared for the next step. The setup was perfect and the excitement in the room was palpable. Finally, she picked up the bottle of vinegar. Vinegar is the magic ingredient that will react with the baking soda to create our volcanic eruption. Make sure you have enough vinegar to see a good reaction. Now, for the exciting part. Everyone gathered around, eager to see what would happen next. The air was filled with excitement and curiosity. She slowly poured the vinegar into the bottle. As the vinegar mixed with the baking soda, we could see the reaction starting to take place. The mixture began to fizz and bubble, creating a sense of wonder. The mixture started to fizz and bubble. The reaction was getting more intense, and everyone watched in awe as the bubbles grew larger and larger. Ethan leaned closer, his eyes wide with wonder. He had never seen anything like this before, and the excitement was written all over his face. The bubbling grew bigger and bigger. Suddenly it erupted. The reaction reached its peak, and the mixture shot up from the bottle. Red foam shot up from the bottle like a volcano. It was an incredible sight, and everyone cheered as the foam continued to flow. Shouted the children. Ethan giggled with delight. The experiment was a huge success, and the joy on everyone's faces was priceless. It was amazing. The children couldn't stop talking about the eruption and how cool it was to see science in action. They were already planning their next experiment. Whoa! The excitement and wonder of the moment were unforgettable, leaving everyone eager to explore more scientific adventures. Section 6. Why did that happen? The classroom erupted in cheers and laughter. Red foam oozed down the sides of the bottle like lava flowing from a volcano. Ethan watched in amazement. It was just like the pictures of volcanoes he had seen in his books.
Wow, that was awesome! But why did it do that, Mrs. Rivera?
Ethan was eager to understand the science behind the amazing eruption. Mrs. Rivera beamed. That's the best part! When baking soda and vinegar mix, they create a gas called carbon dioxide. The gas makes the mixture bubble and expand, just like what you saw. Ethan listened intently, trying to remember everything Mrs. Rivera explained. Science was full of surprises. Section 7. The magic of science.
So it wasn't really magic?
It's even better than magic, Lily. It's science. And the best part is we can all do it. She explained how science helped us understand the world around us. She talked about how scientists ask questions, make observations, and experiment to find answers. Ethan listened, his mind racing with possibilities. Ethan realized that science wasn't just about facts in textbooks. It was about exploring, asking questions, and trying new things. And the most important ingredient, curiosity. Section 8. Science Buddies. The rest of the science lesson flew by. Ethan and his friend Lily teamed up to make another volcano. They carefully measured the baking soda and vinegar. They wanted to see if they could make an even bigger eruption.
Do you think we should add more red food coloring?
Let's try it. More color means a more awesome eruption, right?
They giggled as they added a few extra drops of red food coloring. It was messy and fun, and they were learning together. Section 9. Ethan's next adventure. As the bell rang, signaling the end of the lesson, Ethan felt a thrill of excitement. He couldn't wait to tell his parents all about the amazing volcano he had created. He had learned so much today, but he knew this was just the beginning. Ethan's mind raced with new questions and ideas for future experiments. He wanted to learn more about volcanoes, about chemical reactions, about everything.
Science is so cool, I can't wait to do more experiments.
Ethan knew that science was full of endless possibilities waiting to be explored, and he, Ethan, was ready for the adventure.